She was just a simple woman in a world that never believed she belonged. Standing in formation, her uniform carried dust, sweat, and the weight of every insult whispered behind her back. But when the order came to strip off her jacket, no one expected what would be revealed. And when the commander's eyes fell upon the tattoo inked into her skin, the parade ground froze. Before we dive into this powerful story, if you love your mom and dad, hit that subscribe button right now and show some love to her. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a lesson about respect, courage, and the strength to rise when the world tries to push you down. Story script, 4,000 words, plain paragraph. When Emily Torres first raised her right hand and swore the oath to serve, the barracks erupted with whispers. She wasn't like the others. While many of the recruits carried with them family legacies, years of training, or reputations built from high school sports and toughness, Emily was quiet, unassuming, a small-town woman with no military bloodline to her name. She grew up working shifts at a diner, helping her widowed mother keep the lights on, and studying late into the night in a cramped apartment above a laundromat. She didn't have medals or connections. What she had was grit, and grit was something nobody saw until it was tested. From the first day of training, the men around her questioned her place. They smirked when she stumbled during drills. They muttered when she carried a pack heavier than her own weight. And they laughed outright when her voice cracked during cadence. "She doesn't belong here," one sneered. "Just send her home before she gets hurt." Emily heard it all. She internalized the laughter, the mockery, but she never allowed it to break her. Each insult became another brick in the wall she built around her resolve. She wasn't there to please them. She was there to honor a promise she made years ago. Her father had been a soldier, not a celebrated hero, not a man whose name was etched in books, but a quiet, hard-working soldier who gave everything he had until an accident cut his life short. Emily was only 10 when she watched the flag-draped coffin arrive, and she remembered her mother's trembling hands clutching hers. That day, Emily promised herself that if she ever grew strong enough, she would wear the same uniform, not to replace her father, but to carry him with her into every battle. She had the words burned into her memory. "Tell her she's the bravest I ever saw." It was something her father once told his friend about Emily after she stood up to a bully in her neighborhood. Those words became her secret shield, the reminder that courage wasn't loud, it was steady. Training tested that shield every single day. Emily was mocked more fiercely than anyone else. Men twice her size shoved past her, daring her to complain. Some instructors turned a blind eye, convinced she would fail on her own. But when the runs grew longer, she finished. When the push-ups left arms trembling, she kept pressing. And when the nights grew cold and lonely, she whispered her father's words like a prayer. Still, no matter what she endured, she remained the weak one in their eyes. Then came the parade day that changed everything. It was supposed to be routine, a formation inspection under the sharp eyes of the commanding officers. Soldiers lined up in neat rows, uniforms crisp, boots polished, posture sharp. Emily stood among them, her expression calm though her stomach twisted. She had heard the whispers that morning. Some of the men had decided it was time to humiliate her in front of everyone. The moment arrived when one of the senior officers barked, "Remove your jackets for inspection." For most, it was nothing. A tug, a shrug, and the green jackets fell to the side, revealing undershirts and strong shoulders. But when Emily hesitated, the smirks spread. They thought she was nervous because she wasn't strong enough, because she had something to hide. "Come on, Torres," one voice jeered from the line. "Take it off." More laughter followed, low at first, then rising. All eyes shifted to her. She could have shaken, could have faltered. Instead, Emily inhaled deeply, slid her fingers beneath the hem of her jacket, and slowly pulled it down. Gasps spread across the formation. On her back, etched in bold, black ink, were names, dozens of them. Names of men and women who had served, who had fallen, each line written with precision and reverence. And beneath them, written in flowing script, were the words, "Tell her she's the bravest I ever saw." The tattoo wasn't decoration. It was her story. It was the burden she carried, the weight of her father's memory, and the names of those who had paved the path with their sacrifice. The laughter stopped instantly, the smirks froze, and then the commander, a battle-hardened man with years of scars both visible and unseen, stepped forward. His eyes locked on Emily's back. He didn't speak for a long moment, and the silence stretched heavy. Then, without a word, he raised his hand and gave a crisp salute. The entire formation stiffened. A commander never saluted a recruit, but in that moment it wasn't about rank. It was about respect. His gesture spoke louder than any speech. She wasn't just a recruit. She was a soldier. From that day on, everything shifted. The men who once mocked her couldn't meet her gaze. Some whispered apologies. Others simply followed her lead during drills, no longer daring to question her strength. Emily didn't gloat. She didn't remind them of their words. She simply trained harder, not for their approval, but for the legacy etched on her back. But her journey wasn't over. Just as she began to find her footing, a new test arrived, an emergency deployment exercise. A simulation meant to test the recruits in real-world crisis conditions. During the drill, chaos erupted. Smoke grenades, simulated gunfire, orders shouted over confusion. One recruit panicked and froze in the middle of the field, endangering the unit. Without hesitation, Emily dashed through the haze, grabbed him by the collar, and dragged him back to safety. The same men who once mocked her now watched as she carried one of their own on her shoulders through the smoke. When the exercise ended, the commander called her name in front of everyone. "That," he said, his voice echoing, "is what leadership looks like." Whispers of respect replaced laughter. The same soldiers who doubted her now turned to her in moments of weakness. When exhaustion hit, she lifted them. When morale sank, she reminded them of why they were there. And when fear gnawed at their courage, she carried the weight they couldn't. Emily had become more than just a simple woman in uniform. She had become their example, their anchor. The final test of training came months later. A grueling march across miles of unforgiving terrain with full gear, pushing bodies and minds to the brink. By then, Emily was no longer the one everyone doubted. She was the one they followed. And though blisters burned and packs grew heavier with each mile, she pressed forward, repeating her father's words in her heart. "Tell her she's the bravest I ever saw." When the unit finally crossed the finish line, broken and battered but unbroken, the commander once again raised his hand in salute, this time with a smile. Emily never called herself a hero. She never sought recognition. But the story of the woman who revealed her tattoo and froze an entire command spread far beyond the camp. It became a story of resilience, of respect earned not by force but by courage. A story that reminded everyone that strength isn't about size, gender, or legacy. It's about heart.